sin always leads to suffering, suffering, however it is manifest, is not always the result of sin. Suffering and sin are definitely linked in a cause and effect kind of way, but the Jews got it wrong, and so do many of us today. Sin causes suffering, but suffering is not always the result of sin. Consider Joseph's statement to his brothers in Genesis chapter 50. What did Joseph say to his brothers? He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good."
So even though we may sometimes sin, what do we still have? We still have Christ to speak for us as an advocate, a representative. He pleads our case for us. Even when a Christian believer sins, Jesus he's there in front of the Father's throne to say, "That one trusts me. I shed my blood for that one. I already paid the price for that one." What a blessing. Christ himself remains at the throne to remind the Father, not that he's forgotten, but there's that idea that he's always there, always remembering that we are his. Because
the story is about salvation. It's about a blind man who was healed of his blindness, and consider that the blind man had no ability to heal himself. He wasn't even thinking about it.
Not only do we learn who God is through the application of this message, but it helps to define who we are. Now, I'm not saying that we're gods or little gods, but once God is defined, then we also see with better clarity and honesty who we are in contrast to him.
We know that sin has consequences, okay? In fact, all suffering really is linked back to sin in this fallen world. The sins of parents can have devastating effects and devastating consequences for children. We see that all the time.
But he's not giving us a license or permission for that. He's not all of a sudden telling us to disregard what he just told us in chapter 1, verse 5 to the first part of verse 1 of chapter 2. He's not saying forget all that. He's not saying go ahead and do it because Jesus is good assurance. Remember what we read in Romans chapter 6 this morning. Paul said, of course not. Don't sin so that grace can abound. Don't.